Hi, friends. Yeah, you know how it is. You give a title, half a year or maybe even earlier for a talk, and then you are going to really start thinking of the talk, and you say, whoa, that's a presumptuous title. Okay, so I decided to cut down a bit on the ambitions and not only talk about the future, but I think it's worthwhile also more or less cherishing what we have. So I hope you can bear with me for this last talk. I will present you something about what we are really doing, citizen science, or according to Jeremy Greenwood, citizen ornithology. Much nicer, I think. Why is the EBCC such a successful citizen science organization? And then I will come up with some challenges and opportunities for the future. So it will not be a very heavy talk, so relax. So let's start with when did I become a citizen scientist? Well, I think you recognize this. Hopefully, then you started very young. You are triggered by something, and for me, it was helping in a rehabilitation center for raptors. I really could feel raptors and touch raptors and take care of raptors, and that, I was sold at that moment. And since then on, it's birds. And I'm sure many of you have such an experience. I will come back to that later. So, but actually, at that time, when I started, there was no such thing as citizen science. I didn't know about it. Probably you also didn't know about it. What is citizen science? And I tried to look up various definitions, and there's lots of them. And you put it in a Wordle, and it looks like, okay, there's something about science. Hey, surprise. Non-professionals, amateurs, research, general public, professional, collection, collaboration. These are the things that you see in these definitions. And there's even textbooks written now about citizen science. But in fact, it's quite recent that you see this term, citizen science, in publications. It's rather recent publishing papers with this term is since 2008, 2009, the late 2000s. And since then, you see an enormous increase. And nowadays, it's a buzzword, it's hype. Everybody uses citizen science. Yes, citizen science, yep. So, but bear in mind, it's relatively new, this term. And on the other hand, we know that it's already quite old if we look back in what we were doing. But why is it apparently so successful nowadays? Well, for sure, it has something to do with technological development. They say internet is very important. Citizen cyber science. People can work on scientific questions just simple by sitting behind a computer. And social media are very, very important in this. People can act as more easily as communities. So get in touch with each other, communicate, and you can ask things to the public. Well, there's very nice examples of citizen science projects. I very much like this one, the Galaxy Zoo classification system. You get a number of pictures on your screen, and the only thing you need to do is you need to put them in a kind of box. You need to describe them according to a systematic approach. Very successful and has led to several scientific papers. There's a second version now, so that's a nice example. In astronomy, it's used a lot. Archaeology, history, but particularly in natural sciences, citizen science has become very, very popular and important. It's being used to produce science. Lots of papers, as I showed. It's been used for monitoring and evaluation, for raising awareness, for policy making, for conservation, And for education, don't forget, for education, training and expertise. So, when you look at the textbooks and you try to figure out, okay, how can we describe citizen science, you often see a kind of approach where they define levels of participation in citizen science. So you have a level 4, which you could describe as the extreme citizen science, collaborative science, people of the contributors of the general public that really do good hardcore science. And there is a level 3, the participatory science, that you are into problem definition, data collection, and then there is a level 2 that could be named distributed intelligence. So citizens are basic interpreters, volunteer thinking is what it's called, and then you have got the crowdsourcing. And that's mainly the level where citizens are used as sensors to collect information and data. And so these 4 levels are important, and you can also understand and you can look at our own world and see that we also act on these different levels. So if you look at what are the critical success factors, there's a number of important things. Simplicity, structured schemes comes forward, feedback, communication, and continuity. So, it is increasing. Why could that be? Well, in general, certainly in the natural history science, you can see that there's a kind of erosion of knowledge at classic research institutes. Probably you recognize it in your own countries. It's not natural. Often it's the case that certainly at the policy levels and at the high-rated institutes, field work, field science, field ornithology is less important. So you have less people doing it. So that leaves a gap for citizen science. Nature conservation is an urgent need of science-based knowledge, asks for it, so that gives also a kind of purpose for citizen science. We need evidence base for nature conservation and policy needs. And there's a growing size of these biodiversity databases collected by the public, which makes it very obvious to use them for science. So there is even a European Citizen Science Association. They have even got 10 principles of citizen science. Well, you see the same terms: active participation, genuine science outcomes, benefit from both sides, feedback, receive feedback. You see the same things coming up. Public, make things public, so it's not somewhere hidden, but you really should use it. It's very interesting to read all these things. And then again, if you come to think of it, citizen science, and certainly citizen ornithology, it exists already for a long time. And as you can see in this brilliant paper of Jeremy Greenwood, that he published in the Journal of Ornithology, where he introduced, in fact, citizen ornithology, he says, in biology, already 200 years ago, there was a kind of division. The real professionals went into the lab, doing all kinds of interesting new stuff with biology, and the amateurs stayed in the field. And he uses the word amateurs in the right sense. So already you saw this division that naturalists were often citizen scientists. So why is it so big in natural history questions like ornithology? It was always very popular anyway. So Vincent de Victor described that more than 80% of the citizen science projects is concerning natural history. And particularly birds are very interesting, probably because they are very easy to recognize by the general public. They are popular, appealing to many people. I can't understand those people that are afraid of birds. They exist, but they are fortunately a minority. But and birds, yes, they are important in nature conservation and policy. So, and it's also true that we can use simple but valid protocols to count them and census them. Yes? So that's also important. It's not too difficult to come up with a good protocol. So, but yeah, we have this old school citizen science. Here very nice information from Finland, arrival dates over a period of hundreds of years, collected to see whether there would be changes. Well, that's what we consider now citizen science. So, and of course, we know all the bird ringing example, which is perfect, started already more than 100 years ago. Genuine citizen science. And even systematic bird counts have a long track record. Yes, bird watching is popular. Probably it concerns millions of people worldwide. But you have to realize that probably only less than 1% of these people are really doing citizen science if you go back to these principles of citizen science. So not all of bird watching is citizen science. Although some people think that it's just all citizen science. Yeah, in Europe, we have all these 4 levels. You know, we have these experts which are as good or even maybe even better as professionals. We have the collaborative approaches, the contributory approaches, and also this level of let's say, citizens as sensors. In Europe, I think we can talk about well-trained, almost professionals. We talk about thousands of people even, so that's fairly a big group of people. And if you look at the people that do the monitoring, the self-trained, maybe even or trained people, strict protocols, with a relatively high time input, so let's say the EBCC hardcore people, that's about, well, it should be more than 70,000 people, so that's already pretty much. And then you have this level, you can discuss whether this is really citizen science. Probably it's more than 1 million people that are interested in birds, but they have no training, they work with no protocols, and they have a low time input. So there's still discussion going on. I would say that the limit of what we would call citizen science is somewhere in the darker green area, so the 2 levels on top. And of course, there's a trade-off between effort and number of contributors or locations that you can tackle with a citizen science project. So I would position the EBCC here, quite easy. So we are dealing with more than 70,000 people. That's enough, I would say. So it's interesting to know what drives a citizen scientist. And there have been more and more studies inquiring with these people what drives them. This is a nice study from the Netherlands, asking naturalists what was their driving thing, what did really make them go into the field and collect the data. And it's interesting to see that there is not one overarching argument they use. They like being connected to nature, but similarly, they want to learn about nature. And also very important, they want to contribute to nature conservation and management. And they just want to spend time outdoors. So it seems as if they combine at least 4 of these things to feel themselves citizen scientists, which is great, I think. So it is not one overarching thing. Unfortunately, we can see, these are numbers for the Netherlands, but probably you can find your own examples, that the number of people engaging with citizen science is growing. So we attract, as organizations, more and more people. Very nice, very interesting. Of course, we are all concerned about the aging population. Is it really a problem? These are data for the Netherlands. You see the years on the x-axis, and you see the age, the average age of our observers on the left side. On these are the blue dots, and you can see the 50 years. The 50 years limit is on the top. So we have, meanwhile, on average, observers with an age over 50. And it seems to be, increasing. Whoa. So will all those people in 20 years be dead and then we are out of competition? Now, fortunately, we see that the number of contributors, these are the red dots, over the years, they increase. We get more observers. But what happens, of course, they step in at an older age. They're not anymore me at an age of 15 starting to count birds, or you starting at 12. people step in at a later age. But whether that is a real problem, we have to find out. But at least for me, this was a bit of encouragement. But we were afraid that this aging would be that, yeah, you start, you have a population of bird watchers, and nobody enters again. That's not true. We get new people involved, fortunately. So I hope in other countries there will be many young people encouraged to start bird watching. But in the Netherlands, it seems, and I think in most Western countries, it seems, yeah, that you first have to do your job and your kids and your work and your family, and then you start bird watching. Fine. Welcome. So this is pointing out that we really have an increase in the number of people. And then back to the triggers. My trigger was a guy in my hometown who sat together with my father in the cafe Sunday morning at 11, and they do that in the parts of the Netherlands, drinking beer. And he was telling about that he had raptors. And he was rehabilitating raptors, and whether Ruud, the son, would be willing to help. I wanted to do that. So that's how I got engaged. And this is also a way to engage youngsters at a very early age. Take them ringing. I've done this now for 8-9 years. We have this special day where we invite people of the public to join ringing. And most of the people there are kids. And they are so enthusiastic. If you look into their eyes, it's incredible. They are so touched by these tiny little birds that they really can touch and release. So these are the things that people remember when they grow older. So I strongly believe that we should invest in at a very, very early age in giving experience to children. And then maybe at the age of 50, they join us to count. So this is very important to know what the triggers are. Okay, if you look at citizen ornithology, what's the areas of interest? Well, it's migration, distribution, and population development that you see most studies. And of course, there is where EBCC comes in. Large spatial scale, multi-annual, multi-species. That's our extra added value. You know our major initiatives, PACMS, EBA2, EBP. We cover all of these major things. But why are we so successful? What is the EBCC cherry pie? I want to touch upon 8 things, a lot. First, motivation. Then governance, credibility, pan-European, coexistence, accountability, community, and continuity. I'll make it short. Motivation. We love birds. We are passionate bird watchers. We are also driven by concern. I make here the comparison with art. If you like art, you can be very passionate and you can be touched and become emotional by art. But if you go to a museum and you go back next year, there's nothing changed. Maybe there is even an extra drawing, but nothing will be disappeared. The Nachtwacht will not be disappearing in 10 years' time. And that's different with our business. Our business is under attack. So there is a much stronger commitment for conservation. You love birds, but you also witness that something is changing, so you want to do something about it. I think that's the driving force of many of us. This increases our motivation. So if you see this, you know, the hunting of falcons, it makes you aware of things. It makes your motivation stronger. Okay, so that's why I think we are here as passionate people, which is very important if you ask people to do things, not to consume, but to contribute. So that's important. Governance, I think the delegate structure that we have, the board with responsibilities, and the project-based organization is a vital part of our success. It has proven itself and it's working. Our network is working. I think it's very important to realize that we have this governance structure. We have strong partners all over Europe that work together, nobody excluded, and we make it work. This is a very nice picture. I think, Verena, it was you that made it. Yeah. This symbolizes how we work. We all have our own thing. We bring it with us, but it's connected to each other. We can make it work. Power for everyone. The Peckham's method symbolizes also this approach of making it work. We all have our own methodologies. Line transects for counting birds, territory mapping, point counts, and with help of Arco, Van Strien and CBS, we made it into one database with one output, trends of birds over Europe. So there was no need to have a top-down approach, making sure that everyone counts in the same way. No, we have a different approach. Okay, credibility, of course. This is science, citizen science. So both in the scientific and the policy arena, you need to have credibility. Data quality aspects are very essential. We have them. We have good practice guides. We have good protocols with standardization. And we have validation procedures. So we can really come to very good quality data sets for analysis. This is an example of a paper that will be published soon. It's about testing the robustness of our indicators. We are constantly working on improving the science that we produce. You can be doubtful about the species set that we have in our indicators, but you can test it. You can test robustness. So we're constantly working on improving the science behind our results. Yeah, and it proves itself. There have been thousands of scientific papers referring to EBCC work. ABBA1, well, approximately more than 3,000 papers have been using or referring to ABBA1 data. There will be also a paper published on the use of data of the first European Breeding Bird Atlas. It will be published soon. Sergi Harando is the first author, so look it up and and it gives a very nice overview of the use of those data in the scientific arena. Well, these are very relevant papers that have been published using our monitoring data, the climate-related research about climatic depths for birds and butterflies. Very nice stuff, good science. The climate change indicator, which was published also in Science. Very nice things that we can do with our data. So we have proven that our data are valid and good, robust. Another example to show effects for policies, the farmland bird data analyzed. So, okay. What is very important is that we are genuinely pan-European. Which organization in Europe can really say that they have connections and good connections to more than 50 countries? There's almost no NGO organization that can say that. It's incredible. We cover the whole of Europe, and with ABBA2, we go even to Turkey. So that's very important, that we cover huge areas, completeness. We strive for completeness. And it delivers, well, rather big data. Just to show you that these are the Peckham's contributors in each country, so the people in a monitoring scheme all over Europe. Together, they consist of more than 20,000 people contributing to Peckham's data. It's incredible. And almost all of the countries have participants. Some big, some a bit smaller. The ABBA2 coverage is unprecedented. A coverage we couldn't believe of. We have heard about it, this conference, often enough, fortunately. 70,000 people contributing to this data set. We have witnessed the launch of the EPP Live Viewer. Here, in these circles, is indicated the number of records per country per year times 1,000, so you have to multiply everything with 1,000. It means, and Gabriel already mentioned it, he said 45, I counted it's 46, 46 million records each year, and still growing. Incredible. 120,000 observers. Can't you believe it? So, the fifth thing, it's coexistence. We are very happy that we have a very good working relationship with two other multinational organizations, BirdLife and Wetlands. We have a good understanding. Meanwhile, we know how we can work together, and we do it very often. So it's very, very nice to have that as kind of support from them. It's very, very essential that we have it. Accountability, of course. We all know, and there was lots of talks today, how important it is to communicate with your volunteers, with your observers. So, and as EBCC, we also do that. We have our newsletter to show what the news is for all the projects and for the EBCC matters, important for coordinators and delegates. And all of the projects have their own way of communicating, of giving feedback to the observers. And that's appreciated. Community. Well, see the conferences, look at it here. How important it is to have a rather small but very firm and steady community to talk about these things. We often have the dream, we might have the dream to have gatherings of 1,000 people. More people. Actually, I don't think that's good. I think these conferences, with a limited group of people, with a very steady basis or core, is much more important than having a huge outreach to, let's say, the scientific world. Here is the wheeling and dealing. Here are people talking to each other. Here our connections are made very easily. We are family, so we can communicate easy. And okay, it's once in 3 years. Besides that, we have lots of workshops. So we get to know each other, we communicate, very, very vital. And that's why I'm so happy with the conferences the bird number conferences that we organize. It's very vital for our community. Continuity. Yeah, we have that. Look at the recent development in scientific funding. The projects get shorter and shorter. If you have a PhD project, you are happy when you can go 2 seasons out in the field. We, as observers, go out 25 years, easily, and count the same things in the same areas, and register the changes, like here. So that's also very, very important. Okay, EBCC is a big success, but of course, we should not rest. I'm going to do. You not. Challenges and opportunities. Well, I think we can think of some extension of the data collection, and for sure we can think of research opportunities. I will touch upon a couple of things. Comparative approaches, combined analysis of our data, and new research collaborations. This is us, EBCC, guarding over our 3 nice eggs. I must say, yeah, they have hatched. I think I said at the AGM, they are fledged, in fact. But okay, here they are still in the nest. So we could think of course, some eggs added to it. That's nice. A clutch of 5, eh? Certainly for a raptor like that. Okay, it has been mentioned, the expansion possibilities. For instance, for EBP, how nice would it be if we really could show data over a flyway? Yeah? Not only Europe, where they breed, but also where they migrate, and how they migrate and where to they migrate in Africa. That would be awesome. And I think we need to establish firm relationships with African partners. We have heard stories today about involvement in African projects. Yes, that's really where we have to head to. And hopefully, in the end, in a few years' time, we will be able to show EBP on a two-continent level at least. Extension. Pan-European population trends for rare and scarce species or colonial species. We have shown how interesting it is in the Wildlife Comeback Report, where EBCC was partner, how interesting it is to have data collections on rare species or scarce species. And we have lots of data, of course, because scarce and rare species are interesting for us. We count them, but the way that we can collect the data is still a difficult one as compared to the Peckham's manner of collecting data. But we have to find a way, either by species approach or by any other approach. This is something, it's low-hanging fruit. We should do it. It will cost a lot of energy, but yeah, expanding the suite of species for which we have decent pan-European data is very, very important. Winter species. We have initiatives, meanwhile, at the EBCC level to look at what we find in winter. There's many countries that also have winter counts on terrestrial species. Of course, the water birds are dealt with by Wetlands International. There's decent pan-European monitoring going on. But wintering terrestrial species is also very interesting. We had some first analysis. This is a paper published by Alexi, who shows very striking differences among populations in Europe. And this asks for more. So how nice would it be to have a pan-European wintering bird project? So yeah, EBCC as the European Ornithological Data Center. I've shown it before during workshops, a bit of a fun, but okay, ABBA 1, Peckham's, ABBA 2, EBP, and maybe something about rare and colonial breeding birds and winter counts. So there is possibility to put a few more eggs in our nest. Let's see whether this happens. Next thing, comparative approaches over large scales. It's so striking when you put trends together, and how we often have to do it is by looking at annual reports that are sent to us or that you see in your library. They send me a lot of these reports, and the first thing I do is look at a few species that I know well, just to see what is happening in another country. And it's sometimes striking what you see. Just a small example, we were analyzing data on chiffchaff and willow warbler, and then simple, we put the European breeding bird trend of the chiffchaff next to our own breeding bird trend. The purple line is the European trend, no, it's the Dutch trend, and the green one is the European, the Peckham's trend. And then we were writing this up, and we were showing it to some colleagues, and I said, that can't be true. How is it possible that the Dutch trend is affecting the European trend so much? They didn't believe that this was not Dutch data, because we have a very, very tiny population of the chiffchaff, and we have, of course, our perfect weighing procedure within Peckham's. So this is not Dutch birds, the purple ones, or the green ones. This is what in other countries happen. And it is the same, almost the same pattern. And if you see something like that, whoa, this is perfect for research. And I think there is lots of opportunities for these contrasts between countries over large scales, which would make our life much happier, I think much happier, because we can really find also causes of change much easier. This is a nice example, also almost published, Henning, well, almost published, about common starling. Comparing trends of common starlings over Europe. Fantastic, fantastic, really. And in fact, every species should deserve such a paper. we should go after every species, comparing trends over Europe. It's so easy to do. We have the data. We heard from Becky about the greenfinch. I was already for a time in contact with her, and we were comparing trends she was interested, and also her Dutch colleague was interested in how the greenfinches are doing in Europe. And I easily could, because I had these reports, either by PDF or by written report, I had them, so I sent them the greenfinch trends, and whoa, it's going down, and that, oh wow, there also, oh, and here it's stable. So it's quite easy to get the first ideas, and certainly when you have also the idea of what could drive changes, it's very easy to put together these trends. So this is definitely going to happen. Okay, this is going to happen. Yeah, we're going for a greenfinch paper soon. Rob? Yeah, we are going to, yeah, sure. So then we have got EBA 2. Whoa, data set with lots of 38,000 time surveys, which creates very nice maps with very awful colors. But okay, that's my colors, sorry. We could concentrate not only on the pan-European perspective, which is very nice for the REN already, but when you look at this map, you see this gradual decrease in what I would say density. It's occupancy, but I'm pretty sure it's density of rents over Europe. So if we concentrate on part of Europe and look where this decline, this change is very obvious, we could start with more regional approaches with more detailed data. Let's say the Netherlands. And you fit the map of the Belgians, the Flemish. Oh yeah, the Wallonians also with the atlas. Whoa, the Germans, whoops. Hey, the Polish atlas, whoops. So we easily can make, because we have the context, we know that there is national atlases, we easily could even go beyond the pan-European atlas and look for regional patterns on a more detailed scale to be able to do nice analysis about changes, to maybe discover why this REN is so densely distributed in UK and Western Europe and then fades away towards the east. Very interesting. So the combination of data is the next thing. We have relative density maps or occupancy maps in EBA 2. We can also make spatial temporal maps of change, so trend maps. Where is the species doing well and where not? So this combination of both is very powerful. I want to show you this talk of, this map that Katrina made or showed in a talk on Wednesday. This is the things we need to do. Combine data. In this example, combining the Peckham's trends with Turing data, CES data, constant effort size data, that show reproduction. And there's a whole arena to be discovered, how we can explain and combine trends on the local level with demographic data. It's just starting to emerge, these possibilities, and we should pursue them. New research collaborations. Why not work together with other groups that have the similar objectives? There is a European butterfly project aiming for the same things, a pan-European monitoring scheme. So very interesting to make comparisons, to do research, and to perform research together with butterfly data. Why not? And maybe some other taxons. So this is all possible now already. Fortunately, we realize now how important it is to make the links between projects, between various data sets. And within the EBCC, we realized this, and we just decided this week that there should be something like an EBCC research working group. It's not definite how we are going to do it, but we realized that we need to set up a cross-project working group that picks up all these nice ideas about collaborations and analysis, integrated analysis that will bring us much further in explanations of change and also conservation of species. Well, this is my conclusion. EBCC is great, but has a brilliant future also. Yeah, that's in fact what I wanted to say. You know that it's my last action. Well, it was. I'm already retired, but this conference was my last conference as a chairman. I really felt very, very privileged to attend conferences, to lead board meetings. It's, as I said, a big family with passionate people, really passionate people. There's I think, no comparable organization that I've seen, that I've witnessed with such an energy, motivation, and common goals. And that's why our projects work. It's common goals. We know what we are heading for. Although we need a lot of discussion, although we are different cultures, yeah, we come from a very different background, and still you see this convergence into these nice projects and the things we reach. So I really, I'm very proud, really very proud, and you should feel very proud to make part of this community. And I think there's a golden future for us. And it's fun, right? Watching birds is fun, but doing these things is also fun. If I see people looking at the screen when Verena shows our maps, or Sergi shows the maps of Europe, everybody starts, oh, this is fantastic, this is fantastic. Well, that's what we want to see. So I think we are in a very fortunate position, and I sincerely hope that the new board will carry on with the good work and will even put some more effort in things that might be now hidden a bit away. Maybe we should wait until EBA 2 is published, and then we have full energy to do other things. But at least we should start thinking now of the things ahead of EBA 2. Yeah, we have EBP, we have PACMS full enrolled. So, yeah, thanks a lot for your trust in me. Thanks a lot for your trust in the EBCC, in what we accomplish, and I will forever be a passionate EBCC believer. So expect me at the next conferences, but this is the end of my term as a chairman, and I say goodbye to you. Thanks a lot.